I'll have to put in post a little tidbit. Like if you want to hear hockey talk, fast forward to 31 minutes because we just nerded out.
So I don't think we talked about my recent trip to Toronto on the last episode, James.
No, we did not. You texted me some pictures. You got a little giddy with a specific one, but I won't take that from you. You go ahead.
Well, obviously, yeah, the Stanley Cup was super cool. There were a bunch of kids around asking the guy that was like taking pictures. If you've been there's somebody set up where you can like buy professional pictures. And the kids were like, "Oh, is it the real one?" And so when I got my chance to kind of go up and inspect it, I don't believe it was. I believe it was the second one because there are two.
Oh,
Because Islanders was spelled correctly all 4 times on the cup, and my understanding is that there was an error in one of those, that they were missing an S in Islanders, and
really?
I didn't see that. Yeah, I think if
See
you
that?
look up like Stanley Cup errors, there's some things with like X's over it because they've changed something or whatever. I just
That I've
know
seen. Yeah.
off the top of my head, I knew that there was at least that error, and I didn't see it. So I didn't want to ruin the kid's day to make it think it was not the real one.
Nope, not real.
But
Haha.
it was super cool. Yeah, just like totally ruin these 7 and 8-year-old whatever. I don't know how old they were. 10-year-olds, there was a whole there was like multiple teams running around because there was a Leafs preseason game that night. But I sought out as much as I could about the Islanders. I think we posted it. I think I posted the pictures on our Twitter.
Yeah, you did.
There was 5 or 6 pretty decent sized parts of the exhibits that were Islanders related, and then certainly you can find other players that were there. I did the be a goalie and the shooter situation. I was really bad at both. I decided to not post those videos. They were really hard. So there's a game, if you haven't been there, there's a game where there's a digital shooter or like multiple shooters or like in-game experience, and then there's just 5 holes in the screen, and a puck will just come out of one of them and you have to save it. Like they just give you a stick and it's like a regulation NHL net, and then you just have to save it. There
Yeah,
were
it
some
makes
kids
sense.
there that were like really good, and like they were stopping a bunch. I think I got maybe 1 or 2 uh, out of 10. Like it was really, because you have no idea where the puck is coming from.
What,
Um,
like, was it
and
a regular puck?
Absolutely not. It was just like
I was gonna say,
a
oh
foam
my
puck.
god.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they're just like putting people in direct danger with real
Like, I
pucks.
wasn't sure if like I had to put the equipment on in the whole nine.
I would have loved that. I would absolutely
Yeah.
love that. Apparently, they used to give out blocker and gloves back in the day, but the dude told me that with COVID, they kind of did away with that, which is strange. But um, albeit, and then you could do like a shooting thing on different goalies. I chose Henrik Lundqvist. I only scored 1 goal out of like whatever it was, 7 or 8 shots. It's very weird shooting on a screen. But it was fun. It was very interactive. There's a Gordie Howe, Wayne Gretzky exhibit. Um, it was just cool to kind of be around that stuff. If you haven't been there, first of all, Toronto is very fun. Aside from the Leafs,
Right.
it's a fun it's a fun city. Um, I definitely recommend going. Have you been there?
I have not.
I would I would go. It helped that the American dollar was a little strong, so everything was like a little bit of a discount, which made for a very good vacation. And it's pretty easy to get around, just like an Uber or whatever. But I didn't know if I shared that, so it was definitely a good time. Make your way up there. I'd love to go see an Islander game in Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely love to do, take a trip, whether it's an NHP trip or even if I go cover an away game or something like that. I would definitely take a trip to Toronto. That would it's definitely on my bucket list. I do want to do that. One of the one of the funny things about I don't know, just the way my brain works. It's You tweeted the picture of I forgot what it was exactly in the Hall of Fame, and I always think like so strange. You tweeted a picture of something, and like in the background was something about, or on the side was something about the Bridgeport Sound Tigers, right? Because like there's something about them in the Hall of Fame,
It
and
was the Casey Cizikas thing, and it had the
right,
affiliations, and it still had the Bridgeport Sound Tigers jersey in the exhibit.
right. So and so that was that exactly that right there. Casey Zizekas, like he's not in the Hall of Fame, but he's in the Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Just
Oh,
like I thought
I'm
about that, and I was
sure.
like,
Yeah, I'm sure that there's a lot of players that are just, like, made mention because like, Nathan
yeah,
McKinnon's stick was there, Cale Makar's jersey is in there, obviously not Hall of Famers yet, if they're gonna be. Usually Stanley Cup winners that get, like, 1,000 points, and they're both pretty poised to do that one way or another. But, yeah, there's a lot of players in there, and there was some players that I remembered from hockey cards in the '90s. You remember Dave Taylor? He played on the Kings. I had, like,
oh yeah, like
I had a million cards of him because they sell like, he played 1,000 games, and he was, like, a defenseman. I don't even know if he's,
yeah,
like he's in the Hall of Fame, like, he must've been pretty good, but, like, no one talks about him ever. Maybe Down Goes Brown. He might be, like, the one of the only people that would, like, bring him up for some specific reason that we, like, I don't
right.
even know. Or, like,
That would be
one
like
of these
something Jeff
writers.
Marek would do.
Oh, yeah, 100%, like, he just, like, specifically knows, like, the back of his cards, but, like,
Yeah.
like, his stick was there or something like that, so it was, like, very weird. I'm like, "Oh, yeah, this person." I did also see it's a bunch of Paul Korea stuff, I think, because he's getting in this year, if I'm not mistaken, and,
Yeah.
they had the old Easton, Z bubble that he used. Actually, it was an
Oh
ultralight to be
wow.
specific, so, like, the brown one. So, it was very weird. I'm like, "Yeah, I guess this is, like, a historic item because it's like this thing doesn't exist in
Yeah.
regular
No, not
life
anymore.
anymore." So, it was, like, very weird. I have one of those, like, my from, like, when I was a kid, like, a junior version of, like, the ultralight grip or something. I have, like, my weird aluminum stick. There were weapons. Just an absolute, like, giving a child an actual weapon playing especially street hockey. Like, you hit someone in the shins with that, it was just a straight up piece of metal
Right.
with a wood blade glued into it. Um,
Yep.
Incredible that we used that, but, um, to Islanders hockey we go here.
Kind of.
Did you kind of. Well, yeah, it's I mean, it was at the game. Did you
Right.
see the proposal? And I'll add this note here, and I had never considered this before. I did not ever think this for a second. Chris
Yep.
Botta, who is now one of the co-hosts, one of the three co-hosts for Hockey Night in New York. Love that show. Made a mention on Twitter that some of these marriage proposals are fake. I
Yeah.
had never considered that.
Totally makes sense to me. Right. And I could see that being the way this one went down. I totally can see it. It's just so strange to me how it happened. The reaction from both sides, like it felt very forced. It felt very staged, and I say that because, like, the guy takes his shirt off, like, okay, and then
That's
gets
a
down on the
pretty
one
Long
knee.
Island thing to do, though.
No,
Like,
no, that's
get
not what I'm
drunk at a
saying.
game
Like,
and, like, do that. That's
yeah,
like, someone's doing that every game.
but like so he's down on a knee, and like the camera guy's there, which you could set that kind of thing up and everything and be prepared for that. But like the way she reacted, she like looked at him, she was like smiling, like it was like a joke. Or
Oh,
not
I
that
didn't
I
catch
shouldn't
that.
say that it was a joke, but she was like smiling, like and laughing about it, like, "Oh, this is funny." And like
I have
she
to
like
rewatch this.
walked
I did not see any of
yeah.
that.
She like kind of awkwardly like crawled over to him, said something weird, and then like kept on like giggling as she like left. And the guy, when he got denied, kind of just like put the hand on the chest and like looked down and like then didn't react at all and just sat down and just continued watching the game. And like people around like what was going on were like looking at him like, wait, what just happened? And then that was like it. So I don't know. In my mind, I feel like Bot is onto something there because everyone was talking about it. Right now, all of a sudden, it's a huge publicity thing for the Islanders, and all they have to do is, you know, cut another scene in there where they show the rink for a second, and people are like, "Oh wow, UBS looks really nice." That's
Oh, I
crazy,
get
but UBS looks really good. Like, do I wanna go there? Maybe I wanna go there as a Devils fan. I wanna go watch the Devils play. Or maybe I wanna go there as a Rangers fan. I wanna go watch the Rangers play. And now suddenly it's a whole PR thing for them, right? So and it was somebody tweeted today too. I don't know. I think it was our friends over at Isles Fixed that said this story because there was a new headline today about it. This stories last longer than some marriages, which I thought was ironic because
right.
obviously that was the goal for this guy, or unless it was staged. And it's still going on like a couple of days later. So I don't know. I thought Chris hit the nail on the head there, and the more I thought about it, I'm like, yeah, I could totally see this being staged because like I went back and I watched it a few times, and I was just like, wow, this is weird and awkward. Like when Dan Rosen
Yeah.
tweeted it that night that it happened, it got a ton of traction, and like I didn't think it was
Oh, yeah.
anything. I read it and I was like, oh, like whatever, like that kind of thing happens. Sucks for that guy, but like whatever. And then I saw like all the traction it got, and I was like, all right, now I have to see this. Like, and yeah, no, super
It popped
weird.
up
Like
right
I
away for
could
me,
see
and
it
I I
being
I I I saw it, but I don't know, I guess I didn't watch it over and over, or, like, I didn't try to dissect it at all. I was like, "That kinda stinks." I was a little confused now that you're mentioning it. They're like, yeah, he just, like, sits down and takes a sip of his beer afterwards,
right,
and I was like, "Maybe he's drunk." Like, maybe he didn't really mean to do it, and, like, the girlfriend was embarrassed, and I don't know, I didn't really pay attention to what her reaction was other than, like, I just saw her kind of pull her hat down and walk up the steps. I have
right.
no idea.
Well,
It
here's the
works
other
as a,
thing.
like, PR thing, I get it.
Here's the other thing that I think about when things like this go on. Right? Don't teams after this kind of thing happen? Like, obviously, the guy that she left, right? So whatever. If he was like denied, don't teams usually like reach out and be like, "Hey, here's like a signed puck," and then like post about it, like, "Hey, look at us good guys." Like that didn't
I
happen.
I've never seen a denial. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I've never seen that.
No,
Is that a
not
thing?
not 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 a specific proposal denial. Just like when like something if something happens to somebody at a game, and it doesn't have to be something
Right.
as doesn't have to be super dramatic, just something that gets noticed within the crowd, right? Normally they're like, "Oh, hey, like we reached out to so and so. Here's a signed puck, and look at him smiling. Like we're we did our jobs. He's happy, right?" That didn't happen.
Yeah. I mean, I'm curious if anyone was sitting around that area, like, now that we're, like, having conspiracy theories about this proposal, um, which I guess is better than any other kinda, like, weird stuff that could be happening around this team. Did the woman come back? What did he do? Did he, like, was he shook, like, the rest of the game? Like, obviously, they're not gonna try to, like, put this person on TV. Um,
Right.
I'm curious if anyone was there, tweet us, let us know, like, what happened after that in this section
If you rewatch,
because
if you
it's
rewatch the
interesting.
video, if you rewatch the video, the woman that sits directly in front of him after he sits down and the girl leaves, the woman that's sitting directly in front of him, like jaw dropped, just staring at the guy, like what just happened? And
Ho
then it
how
cuts,
do
but
you
like she's
feel how do you
good.
feel about the proposal at the games in general, like sporting events?
Uh, I wouldn't do it personally myself. I didn't do it personally myself, but um, I mean it's subjective. It's if the girl or the guy go to games together often, and it's like a thing that they do together. They're both hockey lovers. Like okay, yeah, like that's your thing,
Yeah.
cool.
Okay.
But if it's just like oh, you want to go to a game like randomly, then I'm like couldn't have thought of something more sentimental.
I could see that. Um, a little more off ice stuff before we get into the team's first 2 games. Reverse retro prediction by,
Yeah.
Holly Muri.
Yep.
What did you think of these? because I think this was pretty close to what was being predicted
Yeah.
and kind of estimated as what these things would look like.
Yeah, so I'm looking at them right now, and the account that tweeted out Ali, he's been on the money. He did the same thing for the Sharks' current home uniforms this summer. He nailed the Vegas Golden Knights reverse retro that was confirmed. He nailed another jersey. I'm trying to. Oh, he I believe nailed the Hurricanes switching to the black uniforms as their permanent home jerseys for this season. Um, so he's been pretty on the money with these things. Now, his mock-up of the reverse retro has orange numbers, and the only difference so far that has been confirmed is, and he actually confirmed it because he tweeted out the palette, is white numbers. Um, so it's basically it's what we thought it was going to be. It's the in Islander colors. It's
Aesthetics
the
also
reverse retro.
tweeted out some stuff too.
I
There was also
believe
like
it
the
was.
numbers.
I believe it was from him. I think they just confirmed it, like looked into it and used his material and said, this is happening. Um,
Right. With the white numbers and letters, but they don't say
yes,
what the
yes.
source is.
Oh, they didn't.
No,
Okay,
they
yeah, because
said
I'm
here's
pretty
a
sure.
they said these images were sent to Aesthetics in July by a source who requested I not publish, but since the same images are now being shared elsewhere, that might be Ollie's account. That request seems no longer valid. So it does have the white letters and then the white numbers with the orange around it. Um,
Right.
we also tweeted that out, so you can kind of look back through our timeline. But do you like them? What even without the
So
teal?
yeah, I don't hate them. I think that it was fun to do this, and if this is indeed it's fun, and it's much in the spirit of the thing. It's much better than the verse retro ones which were basically just recolored home jerseys. Um,
Which
so
were nice,
I
just
don't
not
mind it.
the spirit of it.
Yeah, I think with the white letters and numbers, it's gonna pop more.
I could agree with that. I do like this. I think it's different, obviously than the original. You're leaning more into your current or more modern looking color palette. I guess I don't. We'll have to see in person what the blues look like and how different they are. If this is maybe closer to the early 2000s blue, or is it closer to what the blue was at the time. I don't mind it without the teal. It's definitely in the spirit of the entire thing. Interestingly enough, um, I don't love the shoulder patches as much as I love the lighthouse. I think it would look cleaner without them. So I
Yeah,
want to see it in person. Like I do like mine. Like I like what they did at the time, but if there's ever a time to like kind of make some adjustments, like what would you have done differently if you designed this today and used the basic concept? Maybe take those off. I think as a secondary logo, I understand what they were doing because they made hats with this stuff. I had one when I was a kid. I lost it. I'm so mad still. There's a picture of me when I was like very little with it.
I think they sell
But
them
I think
now.
it would. Yeah, they do. And I have one. It's just not the same. Like I like having the original stuff. That's why I buy all these ridiculous. If you're watching on YouTube, I watch. I pick up fisherman gear when I can find it,
Right.
kind of cheap. And the hats. Some of them every once in a while you can get a really good steal. Um, but I like the jerseys. I think it'll look good. I'm interested what the whole getup will look like. Um, and then what if the goalies do something different with the pads or um, things like or a mask or something like that. I think it'll be really interesting. But I liked it. I think it's just they answered the call finally and they did it. And
Yeah.
maybe they just did it in an 82 game season. on purpose, and they didn't do it last time, knowing that there would be two
Could be.
versions of this, where they'll have maybe a couple more opportunities to wear it. They'll get more eyes on it. There'll be more national games, or like whatever the case is. Maybe this was just a better time. Um, so whatever the reason, it's it looks good. I'm definitely I'm definitely for it. Um, Going to the
The one
games.
thing that
Oh, go
the
ahead.
one thing before we go to the games, the one thing that's weird to me is that they no teal on the jersey, minimal teal in the logo, and I don't get it. Right? Are they just trying to break up the orange and blue? Maybe, but it's just weird to see in the logo that there's some of that teal when they probably could have just broke it up with some of the gray. And it's also interesting that there's gray on the shoulders in the wave on the shoulders, but not on the hip area or on the sleeves. So I feel like it's just broken up a little oddly, and the
Interesting.
teal is sprinkled in a little oddly.
I'm trying to pull it up again. I had it and it was pretty easy, and now I don't. There it is. I don't know. I don't want to nitpick it just because it's like it's fine. Yeah, I guess there's gray on the shoulders and not on the wave below. They do sprinkle like just the tiniest bit of teal in the wave on the crust itself, which I think is an interesting touch. But the teal was the thing that made it different. But this is I do want to point out like it's not supposed to be the same thing. Like it's cool that
Yeah,
it's
you're
different.
right.
And I do want to own like I want to own that out loud. It's not supposed to be the same. You're not
You're right.
bastardizing anything. It's going to be different. I think other teams, could they just done an orange version? Yeah. That could have just been that would have been very easy. Maybe this is a little more creative. It kind of speaks to a little bit more like the current color palette, but they sprinkle a little bit of that teal and gray in there, and it's kind of like pay the homage to it all. But it's not as easy
Yeah.
as some other teams where they have three colors and one of them isn't white. So like there's very limited options. An orange jersey would have been cool. Like I think fans are constantly saying that. I
Yeah.
don't know. They didn't need to bring back the pumpkin jerseys or someone called them the starfish jerseys or whatever you called them in 2006, 2007. Um, those orange jerseys, which again I'm nostalgic for, even if they're ridiculous. I'm nostalgic for it. Um, some of them I'm not. Some of them are really really bad. Like that black one that just said Islanders with their numbers were
Yeah.
right in the middle was quite bad. Um, I don't love the Stadium Series jerseys, or they consider them the third jerseys now. I don't enjoy that. I feel like it's very very lazy. There's just nothing to it. It's like if a hockey jersey was in a movie or a cartoon, like that's what would come up. Like that's what someone would draw. It's like just give me a generic thing. Like that's the jersey that would come up. Um Again, this is but
I
going back to this, like it's just not supposed to be the same thing.
Yeah, I hear you. The one thing I do like though about the jersey, because I've noticed not every reverse retro is doing it, is they're using the 1990s NHL logo, the orange one. A few other jerseys have the orange 1990s NHL logo as well. And I promise we'll talk about Islander hockey in just a minute. The last thing I want to say here is actually about the Devils reverse retro, because now I cover that team as well. And the Avalanche reverse retro. So I don't know if you saw the Devils one, but they're doing a Devils jersey in Colorado Rockies colors. It's a
I
white
did see
jersey.
that.
Okay, looks super cool. Not gonna lie, really like it. The thing that's
Yeah, that
strange to
looks
me
sick.
The thing that's strange to me is the Rockies are doing the same thing.
The
It's a
Avalanche.
white Rockies. But they're doing a white Rockies jersey. It's the same jersey with like minor differences.
How is that not more of a story? Although I love the Stars one. Oh my god, that jersey's so cool.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
jersey
that's
is
really
cool.
interesting. All right, so I'm seeing that now. Is it the same
It's not
stripes
exactly
and
the same. minor differences, but like still like it's the white base jersey with the same color scheme and a different logo. And it's just so weird to me. Like that you couldn't do something else. Like I don't know, do a purple Nordiques jersey this time, like reverse the reverse retro.
That's weird. I mean, the Devils have, and what they may have done. Actually, you know what this is? Here, I'm gonna get this is some deep hockey knowledge here. That is the Kansas City Scouts. That is not Colorado Rockies. That's
Right,
the
right.
Kansas City
That's what I meant
Scouts.
to say. That's what I meant to say.
The Colorado, they look very,
Very
very
familiar.
similar. They look very similar, but and I believe the Colorado Rockies are part of what would eventually become the Devils. If you play early 2000s NHL games,
Yeah.
I believe both jerseys were under the ones you can unlock. This is
Yeah.
very nerdy. So as soon as I saw the red on the Devils jersey, it's the Kansas City Scouts jersey. They are really
Yeah, that
close though. That's
they're
not very
very
different. It's even the same. Yeah, it's even the same red and yellow for the most part.
Just
Aw-
I
And
want
blue.
complete chaos. I want complete chaos. Wear each team wear that this jersey, play each other for a full 60, go to overtime. I want to see chaos.
Yeah, that's really funny. I do love the blue because it's so like that whole thing is just very different for a Devils jersey. That
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
sick. Like
It looks
the
very good.
Colorado one, if you've been to Colorado, that logo is freaking everywhere. Like that
Yeah.
color scheme, the whole is it is on every single t-shirt. It is cool. I'll give them that. So like this doesn't look weird to me. Like this looks like a very Colorado thing. That
Yeah,
Devils one is
absolutely.
just like different enough. And I
Well,
love that
that's the
it's not
thing.
just like a green jersey, like,
Yeah.
revert like this is throwing it back to another franchise. I do really enjoy this, but I like the
This is
bright
the
colors.
This is the first time the Devils have well, I should say the second time. The Devils have a different jersey other than the red homes or white aways or the green alternates. They finally did something different with the black jersey, which is super interesting, but they
Yeah.
nailed the marketing on that one. Um this
It
is
wasn't
like
for us. It was for New
Yeah,
Jersey,
and they
right?
super
Like it's
love it
just
there. Like they super embrace it. Even the staff wears hats everywhere. It's hilarious.
oh, it's fantastic.
Um, yeah, it's hilarious. But this is the first New Jersey Devils hat jersey that's different. For and it has the Devils logo on it. Like it's different than anything they've ever had before. So I'm loving this. I wouldn't mind maybe grabbing one for myself and like putting it in a frame or something. Like I love this jersey.
It does look it does look sick. I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan of really like 70s and 90s color schemes. Just kind of that like that bright pop. It was just so much more interesting. And then like the late
Yeah.
90s, everyone just got more subdued again, early 2000s. Um, I just think of like the basketball teams, like Detroit Pistons and the Hornets and these like greens and these purples. And there's just like it was just very fun, which is where the fisherman comes out of, and a couple other ridiculous jerseys in the 90s that again we're all nostalgic for. As badly designed as they are, it is way more fun. Like
Yeah.
this is a lot of teams not taking themselves so seriously and just having fun with something. Again, even the Islanders thing. You can think whatever you want about the fishermen. It's different, it's fun, it's money for the team. Um, it gets people interested in a unique part of the Islanders history, albeit a controversial one. Um,
Yeah.
and it's not supposed to be the same thing. So even if you're a traditionalist, which I fall into that category, but I respect the hell out of this. For the
Yeah.
team to have the guts to really just finally do it, even under Lamoriello, like that's interesting, considering he didn't do any of that with the Devils when he was there. I don't know what he did in Toronto. Their jerseys, everyone says like things have changed on them, like the Leaf, and I'm like, that's interesting, I guess. That's not really a big move, and every team did something with stripes and the different embroidery, and nothing. There's a lot of things that just weren't entirely interesting in the early 2000s with jerseys when like Reebok took over. Um, but I think it's cool. They embrace a part of their history, and it's
Yeah.
definitely different. They're definitely going to sell a billion of them. Um,
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
and then the secondary market for all these jerseys, the original ones, are if you thought they were ridiculous now, there's an Eric Fisho jersey for like $450. I would expect that to go up in the $600 or $700 range. And I remember these jerseys, not even 10 years ago, were less than $100.
Oh, yeah. Nobody wanted them.
Yeah, I bought one. I found it on Craigslist. It was like
Nostalgia,
30 bucks.
nostalgia really became mainstream like within the past 2 years.
Yeah, and that's why I bought like the '93 jersey. I suspect the early '90s stuff will come back eventually. Um, but then right after that was the Fisherman stuff, and I sold one. I had two Fisherman jerseys. I sold one, and then I bought the Wave jersey because I always wanted one of those. And I sold mine for essentially the same price as I bought this other one. So
Yeah.
it was pretty good.
Nasman Hockey is brought to you by DraftKings. Hey, hockey fans. It's finally time to hit the ice again, and thanks to DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL, you're in for the season of a lifetime. New customers can bet $5 on any team and get $200 in free bets if they win. If you're an Islanders fan, you're excited that Matthew Barzal just signed a long-term extension. With a new contract in hand, why not bet on him to maybe be the MVP of the upcoming 2022-23 season? If that wasn't enough excitement, you can turn small bets into bigger payouts with same-game parlays. Combine multiple bets like which team will win, how many goals will be scored, and more for your shot at an even bigger payout. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. You can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you'd like. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, use promo code THPN, bet $5 on any NHL team to win their game, and get $200 in free bets if they do. That's code THPN at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
Let's get to Islander hockey in the last week because we actually had some games. Technically,
Yeah.
week one, opening of the season, and really the tale of two drastically different tapes. Last week on with the Islanders on Long Island, two home games as they kicked off the season. Um, what did what did you really see from the game against the Florida Panthers as the Islanders played a meaningful game under head coach Lane Lambert?
Yeah, and I do want to say before I do answer your question, you'll have to put in post a little tidbit. Like if you want to hear hockey talk, fast forward to 31 minutes because we just nerded out about jerseys and stuff real hard. But
That's fine.
you're right. You're right. They did play a meaningful game in their first game of the season against the President's Trophy reigning I don't know, owners
Reigning
that
reigning President's Trophy winners.
yeah, I said it out of order. You catch my drift. Um, they played a meaningful game, and look, they didn't score a goal, but the Panthers are going to be really tough to play
Well, they
against this
scored
year.
a
And
goal. That's all they scored was
I'm
one
sorry,
goal.
yes, you're right. They scored a goal. Um, the Panthers are going to be tough to play against anytime. They're a really good team. You anticipate them making the playoffs again. They got Matthew Kachuk now, right? Like yeah, they maybe lost a little bit on the blue line, but I think they're still going to be just as tough to play against. And you know, a little bit of still feeling out the system and you know, um, I don't want to say learning it, but testing it out and working with it, right? Like Romanov and Dobson are still working on their chemistry. Robin Salo had actually a really bad game in his first game. I took a look at the every shift he had, and it was just not a good one for him.
Get a
And
penalty.
then the forward group is still trying to gel at that point and figure it out, right? So there were some positives from it, there were some negatives from it, but like you said, the main takeaway from that game was they played the Lambert aggressive style that he's been trying to instill. They made it a meaningful game. They hung tight with him. It was a 2-1 game until Matthew Kachuk hit the empty net. So, hanging in with the President's Trophy or the reigning President's Trophy winners. Look, it was game one, and then look what they did game two. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but um, I like what this system brings. I really do because it's a lot less wait and see and a lot more get the puck, get up the ice. And that's something that and we touched on this maybe a week or two ago. That's something that I think is gonna, we're gonna learn about these players who we thought like, oh, let's write them off because Sebastian Aho stinks or Oliver Wahlstrom. Did we waste a first round pick on him? Which I think that was a little too early, but Kiefer Bellows, is he going to pan out? Matthew Barzell, is he going to break out? Josh Bailey stinks. Does he, though? Does he, though? Because look at this system now, right? I think that this system is more the right style for this team. The more I think about it, right? We wanted so much for Barry Trotz's system to be the system, right? Oh, older team, they can't play that fast style. But now that you're seeing it, you're like, I don't know. I think we were wrong about that. Like this system's working. Because again, yeah, they lost the game against the Panthers, but it's you're seeing it develop throughout the lineup. And look at a guy like Alexander Romanov, right? He had 9 block shots in that game. That's just something that he does. That's his style. And then add the fact that he is the kind of skater that he is. Like that second pair with Dobson and Romanov is going to be a problem, and not for the Islanders, for everyone else.
I'll say this about Romanov. He was unnoticeable in a good way
Right.
in both games. I thought, he was there, he was trying to mix it up a little bit. I tried to keep an eye out on him, for him rather, see if he's gonna throw a big hit because I'm waiting for his like Darius Kasparaitis moment. Just like laying out big bodies or Johnny Boychuk, a more recent example, of someone that can just, or Eric Cairns. Like the Islanders have had a couple of these guys over the years, and I'm waiting for Romanov to just like have his moment where he's just like that physical presence. But I think it's really allowing Dobson to break out and let loose a little bit, and that helps. That makes it a really good pairing. And as you said, over time, that'll get much better. When I watched this game, and I caught mostly like midway through the second period through the end of the game, and that's just about the time when it seemed like the Panthers were really kind of taking hold, and mostly just because of Islander mistakes. And it looked a lot like that game against the Rangers, where they were trying to get the puck up, and it was just sloppy passes and not being able to kind of the transition game works unless it doesn't. So like getting your passes picked off and not making good decisions and not making that good pass in your own zone, which we have seen them been able to do even in the preseason. D to D passes are quick. When there's a defenseman in the high slot and they get the puck and there's another forward kind of swinging down, there's a quick couple, like 2 quick passes. That was like Robin Salo to Pajot to Barzell, right? Those quick little 1-2 passes that gets the puck moving up the ice very quickly because everyone's just where they're supposed to be. When that's not working, this team is getting hemmed in their own zone, and they look really bad. Because then you have they're kind of forcing a player up the ice a little bit. That was like the Wahlstrom goal against the Ducks. Um, he may have been coming on the ice for a change. I'm not exactly sure, but there's been a lot of opportunities for, and I just wrote this in my column in Oz Weekly this week for the hockey writers. They seem to be springing it forward. They're really keeping the
Right.
other team's defense a little more honest. That just was not what they were able to do against the Panthers because they were kind of coming at them. I think the game overall, what I was seeing on Twitter and what I had kind of witnessed is that it was a kind of a slow game in general. So no one
Yeah.
really could get anything going. The Islanders had more shots, but that really wasn't indicative considering the Panthers outshot them the rest of the game, after the first period. So, I think in general, like zooming out, there's not a whole lot we could take away from these games. Like nothing is proven one way or another. I think it's good that they had a bounce back game, and that might be good. That might be a good transition to the Ducks. They were a completely different team, and not just because of the score.
Well,
This
and
was
the
Go
thing
ahead.
for me, the reason why they were a different team had a lot to do with that third pair. Um, Robin Salo, like I alluded to earlier, had a really bad game against the Panthers. He was the direct result of the first two goals the Panthers scored. The first goal, failed clear attempt by him. He throws it around the boards from behind the net or behind the goal line and tries to clear the puck. It gets knocked down by, I believe, Rako Guda from at the point. He throws a shot on net, and next thing you know, it finds Twine. He also failed to recover from the failed clearing attempt and get back on his man in the slot, who wound up, I forget who it was. I think it was E2 Listrinen, or however you pronounce it. He was the guy in the slot. He was left uncovered because it was Robin Salo's guy. He couldn't get back to him. Wound up deflecting the Gouda shot from the point, and it's 1-0 Panthers. Similar situation for goal number two. Scramble along the boards, fighting for the puck. He was meaning Salo was on the outside of that scramble. The puck pops out to him and kind of flubs on the clearing attempt, and it goes right to forget who was in the slot, but it goes right to that person. I think it was Ryan Lomberg. The shot is saved by Sorokin. However, he could not collect the rebound, and Patrick Hornquist was on the other post and buried it. It started with a failed clearing attempt again from Salo, and then he could not recover once more, defending Patrick Hornquist, because Hornquist was behind the net when he recovered the puck and went to the opposite post and deposited the puck. Salo took an interesting route where he tried to meet him by going around the front of the net to defend him, but by the time he tried to get there, it was too late, and he had already scored. So two of those goals were a direct result of, unfortunately, Robin Salo. Now we can transition to the Ducks game because he did redeem himself a little bit. But before we talk about the last two goals of the game, we will talk about the game in its entirety. What did you see with the Ducks in town?
I thought that they were what you'd expect. And again, not just because of the score, how they were playing, how they were moving the puck up the ice. They were aggressive in the offensive zone. The defense wasn't just getting the puck up the ice quickly. They were jumping into the play. Romanov had a
Yep.
couple of chances. Romanov had a couple of chances in both games, to be perfectly honest. So not to say that he was completely invisible out there again. And it wasn't, I didn't mean that in a bad way, but he wasn't making mistakes. He was just the rock that he was supposed to be. But he was also jumping into play in both games, which is, he wasn't rewarded. I don't believe he had a point. One of the rare Islanders in the game that didn't have a point. And most of the team does at this point, which is unless they didn't play in that game. So there's only, like, Bellows, Sashnikov, maybe a couple other players, but they look energized. I thought overall it was a good game. I didn't see a whole lot of mistakes. I did notice Bavillier took a little bit to get going in that game. I was watching him on his first couple of shifts, and I just kind of shook my head like, he's not going. The motor is not there. That typical Bavillier tenacity, he was just there. Like, as my mom used to say to me, like if I had a bad game, she's like, "You look like you're figure skating out there. Like, you were there, you were in the game, like you had shifts, but like you just weren't engaged, you weren't involved." And that's kind of what I thought when I saw Bavillier. As the game went on, he got much better, and then he eventually scored a goal, which I thought was really good.
Yeah, as the game went on, I actually thought you're right. It took him about 10 minutes into the first period to get going, but then once he got going, I feel like he was one of the best forwards for the Islanders.
100%.
Aside
And
from
Kevin Kurz would agree with you. He had a great article about Wahlstrom and
right,
Bavillier, and really the young players. And I think that's really what's the main story here is, I mean, I think as far as I saw it as like a possible narrative, it's not just the defense that is the storyline. It's the young players on this team that are kind of leading the way here. That was my headline for Isles Weekly.
yeah.
And it includes, with the exception of like Anders Lee and Scott Mayfield, every other goal that's been scored has been someone 25 and under. like a
and
major
majority from the defense.
a majority from the defense. So I think that that speaks volumes. I mean, that's a different problem. I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. You need support wherever you can get it. It's almost like having your bottom six score. Every once in a while, you need a little bit of help, and if you can get that from your
Sure.
defense, I think that's perfectly fine. I don't think you can fault anybody for that. But I think that a big storyline for me is that it's young players.
Yeah. Yeah,
The
no,
1A
I'd agree with you.
story is that it's defense, and I think that's really good, but having everybody get engaged like that, I think is a really good confidence boost. I think, another thing that I had mentioned in the article was that they bounce back. They It
Yeah,
was,
they
they didn't let
responded.
that first game. Yeah, they responded, and I think that's just a mature team kinda coming out there. I don't think they're getting high and mighty by themselves in a 7-1 win against a team that just got in to New York, the day or the night before. Um, they know that there are no easy games, and the schedule's only gonna get harder. After San Jose and the Devils, who again, and on any given night, San Jose's hungry for a win. The Devils, they want to play for their coach. They're going to be hungry and kind of coming in. And then it's Tampa Bay and a bunch of really good teams after that. And Florida again, the Rangers, um, the
Carolina,
Hurricanes,
Colorado,
and Colorado. Like
murderers
the
row.
yeah, it's going to be a really tough month, and that includes two back to backs. This weekend, the 2 weekends in a row, they have back to back games, which means Varlamov will certainly get time. All that to
Yeah,
say, and getting a little ahead of ourselves, all that's to say is I thought they just responded well, and it almost is a palate cleanser. They can go, okay, we played a messy game, and if it wasn't for our goalie, that's a really bad game. That easily gets away from us, and we're not
yeah.
in it. So we got out of there, 3-1 empty net, whatever. We can live with. I can sleep with that. Have to respond. I love that's a perfect way to say that, James. They responded. They showed up, they took care of business, and they didn't look bad doing it. It wasn't 7-1 and it was
No,
like, wow, a lot of just really crappy goals, and you really can't blame their goalie. It was no, that was really good. That was a really good game.
I do have a hot take, and we might not love that I'm gonna say this, but Robin Salo did score 2 goals that which I thought was great for him. He had a really strong game. I do wanna say that the 2 goals he scored should have been saves. One was against Gibson, or they might have been both against Stolars. I forget who was in net, but both of them were savable pucks. They were kind of flubbed saves, and it benefited Robin Salo. Obviously, that's not to take away from the rest of his game. He had a very strong game, a very good response to the first game that he had. I want to give him all of that credit. I do believe both of his goals should have been saves. They still win no matter 5-1. It's a good game by the Islanders. I do think that those should have been saves.
I think it's the defense is getting the opportunities, and they're being rewarded for just getting the puck to the net.
Sure. Pucks on net
And
is never a bad thing.
and that's a great transition into the frustration that I had, even when this team was up, about Barzell and Pulak, who Barzell never thought shot. The only time he had like a kind of a partial breakaway, it was a 2-on-1 where he was just going to take it to the net. And he backhanded it, I think, into the rafters. It was a high backhand, at least into the glass. But the rest of the time, there were plenty of opportunities for him to just get that shot on net and really make it hard for future teams watching tape on him and that are going to be playing them in future games to find out what his tells are. He's just too predictable. At a certain point, he's thinking pass first, and I don't like that. I like every once in a while where if he can fade the pass, like look pass and shoot. I think that's really important for him to be able to do that, and it's going to lead to more opportunities. Even if you shoot for a save, like aim for the pads and just get a rebound, shoot for a rebound. He's not even doing that. He's looking past the entire way. It doesn't look for a second he's going to shoot. Pulak much the same. He does the pump fake. He did that a handful of times, and it was hard to watch. Just like the rest of the defense is putting pucks on net and being rewarded. and he's just like gripping the stick too tight. I think he's overthinking all of this. I guess he's not making a mistake. The puck's getting back behind the goal line afterwards, but just shoot, just get it on that.
So yeah, and I hear you on that, and you're totally right. I think that's something that he's recognized though, Barzell, with the shooting. I'll start with him. It's something he's recognized and has said that he's working on. It's the second game of the year. He's still, he's going to have these hiccups where he has games where he doesn't shoot. But I do want to say that in the first game against the Panthers, he led or was tied for the lead with yeah, amongst the forwards with 4 shots. So he took 4 shots in the first game. There are games where he's in the headspace of I got to shoot the puck, and you saw that in the preseason too. He had that excellent goal where he was on the left wall, kind of cut into the slot and scored that goal against Shesterkin, and put the gave the Islanders lead against the Rangers. I think that he is trying to continue to keep that headspace, but he's going to have these hiccups, right? So this was one of those games. Fortunately, everybody else scored, but
Yeah,
this was one of those games where he didn't shoot the puck. Same
there were
for
a lot
Pellick.
of
I'm
hiccups.
sorry.
There
Same
was a
for
lot of
Pollock.
hiccups
He
for
had
Barzell.
yeah, no, I hear you, but same for Pollock too. He had 2 shots in the first game, and I know he didn't register any in the second game. I don't know what it is with Pollock and his shooting. He's got obviously that inability to hit the net, or we'll see if that remains and if it's going to continue to be a storyline. But you're right, he does need to. He's got that cannon of a shot. Just put it somewhere relatively near the net, and it's got a chance.
I think
So
that's it. I
I'm
think
with
that's
you.
it.
I'm with you on Pulak. Matthew Barzell, though, I did want to recognize like he did have 4 shots in the first game. And he did acknowledge like I need to shoot more. So I think we'll see that continue to evolve in Barzell's game as we continue to progress through the season. Um, it's a big year for him. I think he knows he has to shoot that puck.
Yeah, there was just too many opportunities as far as I saw it in the game against the Ducks. And when there was a lot of opportunities to shoot, and I'm not saying just get the puck on the net as in quantity sake, but there were quality opportunities where like the pass didn't make sense. And as
Right.
somebody that I would have done that too for the most part, it was it's difficult to like take that opportunity because you kind of grip your stick a little tight and you're like, oh well, he's open. I can get the puck to him. And he does have 3 assists. He's leading the team in scoring at this point. So it's not like he's not getting on the score sheet and making an impact. I don't think that's what I'm saying. But I think it's just going to be if he's the only superstar on this team and he's going to be somebody that is the nucleus of like as Barzell goes, so does the team. He needs to be less predictable. He needs to throw the puck on the net a little bit more in addition to passing.
That's
I
fair.
as long as he recognizes that, I think it's fine. And for Pulak, yeah, I made that joke on our Twitter. Bad news, Pulak didn't shoot. Good news, he didn't miss the net. Um,
Right.
and it's he just has this ability to miss the net high and wide. Like I have not really even ever seen that before. It's almost like it's on purpose. It's kind of incredible, and maybe it was for all last like couple of seasons. But like you said, it's a cannon of a shot. We're seeing just pucks kind of go in and shoot for a rebound, shoot low and hard. I say that the dudes in beer league all the time. I'll get a stick on it. You just have to keep it below the knee. Like I'm not, I'm also not a professional athlete. I want to go home and not be terribly injured. Like keep, keep the puck low. Like you don't need to shoot the score from there. You just need to shoot and like keep it low so someone can get a stick on it.
Right.
So it's a little frustrating, like even at the NHL level, that you just kind of run into the same problems where they're not shooting us. And Salo may have been doing that on that goal, just to like get the puck on net, good things happen, and yeah, it squeaked in. Good on him for just putting it on the net. Um, just gotta have more of those opportunities. He needs to take. Some of them is like you don't want him blasting it into someone's shin pad and they go the other way in an odd man rush or worse, a breakaway.
Yeah.
But there were more opportunities in that. And he just does the pump fake. Like, I don't get it. It's like his controller's broken and he's like, he gets ready for the shot and like doesn't do it. Like he's, you know what I mean? It's like, it's like running out of batteries and like disconnects for a second. and he's like stuck, and you're like, dude, shoot it! Like, what happened?
Right.
But yeah, I think that's what I would like to see from him. And speaking about big goals, Wahlstrom, I'd
Yeah,
take
man.
it away here because I know you're conductor on the Wally train.
Oh yeah. This was for me. I could see this continuing. He put his big boy pants on, and he said, "I took this summer to, get in the right headspace and I guess kind of taking a page out of Anthony Bavillier's book in the postseason a couple seasons ago, took all the pressure off myself. I'm just going to go out there, play hockey, and have fun. Last year, I didn't do that. I put a lot of pressure on myself to, perform, and it didn't work out in my favor, obviously. So this year, I have a different mindset and trying to be a little bit more zen about it. And I think it translated real well at his first showing, right? We didn't get a ton of him in the preseason. He was dealing with an injury. So in he comes in this second game, he was finally available. And what does he do? He was dependable in the defensive end. He was good in the neutral zone. And what do you know? He gets the puck on his stick and an opportunity to score, and he friggin' roofs one on the backhand. And, it was just one of those moments where it was like, uh-oh, did Oliver Wahlstrom figure it out? And I know it's super early and it's like, okay, yeah, he's a professional hockey player. Like, if they make those plays, sure. But, it was just something about his confidence and the way he held himself, in that moment where you said, oh, he knew what he was doing the whole time, right? It wasn't one of those rookie things where he's got a grenade on the end of his stick and he's like, "What do I do? What do I do?" Like, no, he was composed, he was poised, and he made a good move and he scored a nice goal, and not against the schlub, against John Gibson. So, that was one of those moments for me where I was like, okay, 2 points for Wallstrom, right? Because he also tallied an assist. Real strong showing from him. And this was something I said the other day on my radio hit on Sirius XM channel 91 was the big thing for me for the Islanders this year is after the year he had last year and not really meeting expectations is he going to force his way into the top 6? Because the game has changed for the Islanders, and right now he's starting on the third line with JG Pageau, and it's working out seemingly pretty well, in the early go of it. But if you want to maximize that shot that he has and that scoring ability, you got to put him with a playmaker, or you got to put him on a line with someone who can feed him pucks. Right? JG Pageau is great. I love him as a Swiss Army knife. Maybe Josh Bailey is a good fit for him on the third line in this system to pass him pucks, but I'd also like to increase his ice time. I'd like to increase the opportunities and the chances that he gets to score. I did see that he got on the second power play unit, which is not something that he has had to this point this season. He did get there this morning on the ice at practice, which is good to see. He is going to be a huge factor in if the Islanders take that step this season. And that was a good way to start.
Yeah, the power play is going to be his opportunity, and I disagree about him forcing his way into the top 6 only because I think that's harder competition. And let him thrive on the third line. Let him start sniffing 20 goals with a mix of second power play minutes and third line. Hopefully Josh Bailey can be that person, and hopefully JG Peugeot can be that person. But I
Yeah.
think leaving the top 6 as it is right now, and if he plays well enough, I think there's an opportunity, sure. But I don't think he's ready for the top 6 competition. Maybe the minutes,
Well,
right? But I think it's more about he's going to be on the ice just against different competition, different second and third pairings instead of first pairings against Barzell, and I honestly don't think that he's there yet as far as his ability to read the NHL game. And that's not a knock on him because it's not just reading the NHL game at that speed, it's doing it with Barzell. And when you have guys like Palmieri and Parise who can do that at a very high level and who have done it before, even if Parise is, he's still playing really well. He's motoring out there. Some of the older players look great too. I give them credit. Clutterbuck looked fine. His skating was great. Um, Didn't look worse for wear again. Didn't see a ton of mistakes. I thought that line played pretty well considering their age at this point, and a lot of people kind of thinking that they weren't going to have a very good year. But Parise also looked good. He was mixing up with Matt Kachuk in that first game. I thought that was interesting. It just didn't seem like he was the right guy for that. But that's just Kachuk kind of doing it and pissing people off. But I don't think Wahlstrom is there yet necessarily. I prefer him on that third line. Again, it's like rushing things. It's like there's just no reason for it. He's scoring goals. I don't care what line he's on.
Well, okay, so I want to. So you articulated it better than I did in saying he's not ready for it yet. That and I agree with you. What I meant was if as the season progresses and he starts to continue to take steps forward and take strides, does Lambert at some point say this kid is dialed in? Like let's just say, he has a month where he scores like 8 goals in a month, in November, for instance, right? At that point, December rolls around, you might be saying to yourself, he's getting it.
I
And
think you might see him move up to the first power play before you see him move up the actual lineup.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
No,
know,
for
if
sure.
he's,
I'm just
I think
saying
there's like
increase his
incremental,
opportunities.
absolutely, but I think it's incremental, right? I think
And that's fine.
you might see shifts out there, and mixing things up if just to kind of get it going. If there's an offensive zone start, um, and it probably has just as much to do with how well Palmieri's doing. If they're both playing really well in their respective roles, rather, you don't touch it. There's no reason to just be like, well, Wahlstrom has 2 more goals than him. That's not reason to me, not an NHL
Right.
coach.
No, I hear
It's
you.
not reason enough for me to be like, oh, change this. Right?
There's
Like
also
that
the
doesn't make any sense. There's also an opportunity with Bavilier, who in his own right is kind of, I wrote this week that he's a perennial breakout forward for the Islanders. And this is just another year where he has the potential to do it. He could be one of those players that doesn't
right,
do it, and then that gets Wahlstrom kind of a bump. And it depends on what you think success is for Bavilier. For Wahlstrom, it's scoring goals. He needs to play defense, obviously, in this system and on this team, but he can just score goals. He's not the fastest skater. He's he can lay hits, but that's just not his job. He's gonna score goals. Bavilier is kind of a little bit more of an engine out there. He can skate, he can back check, he can do this, he can do that. As long as he's making an impact on that line, even if he's not producing, a lot of secondary assists, a lot of assists, maybe he's not scoring goals. But if he gets 40 or 50 points and they're mostly assists, and that line is playing really well, Brock Nelson's got 30 something goals again. Anders Lee's in the 20s. That's fine as long as he's making an impact out there. So it might just be an adjustment in what success looks like for Anthony Bavilier. It might not be what we wanted it to be. Wahlstrom does not have that choice. He needs to score goals to be successful in this league. For people to like have him live up to the hype anyway.
right.
So that also plays a little bit of a role into where Wahlstrom will ultimately fit into the lineup. But I say keep on the third line, let him thrive.
Yeah, no, I hear you. There's also the added fact that I don't know if you saw this, but I'm sorry, Parise, Barzell, and Kyle Palmieri to this point, or as of Sunday, have like the highest expected goals for as a line in the NHL, like the third highest. Like
Very
they're
small
up there.
sample size, but yes,
Very small.
I did see that. And that's good. It's getting
Of
pucks to the net.
course.
It's controlling the play. That's what you want to see early on. And again, it'll be a big test. Really, the end of October, you'll be able to kind of put better narratives together. Who is this team? Who are the players? Who's this coach? What's working and what's not? Um, the first 2 to 5 games is everybody in the league kind of feeling each other out. They're getting new tape on everybody. You're seeing what everyone else is doing. You're seeing who can really bring it on a consistent basis. And 2 sets of back to backs is not a joke. Um,
Right.
you might see some lineup changes depending on here and there, just even beyond Varlamov. So, um, but in general in these games, anything that surprised you or specifics that stood out?
Um, I really like Nikita Sashnikov. I think he's a great player, and like, not saying he's this 20 goal, 50-point guy. He just got he's got a little bit of everything. He's got all those tools that the Islanders need in their lineup, and like I understand that he's not going to play every night, but like having him as a 13th forward, I think is a kind of a luxury. Because when he gets in, like he's got that spark. He's got that, he's got the speed. He can clearly he can snipe. Like if there was a way they could figure out how to have this guy in the lineup every night, I'd love that. Um, Kiefer Bellows, I thought had a pretty good first game too. He came out for Oliver Wahlstrom because I think they prefer him to play. I'm super intrigued to see how they're going to deploy these guys because again, like a guy, we've spoken about this, ad nauseum, but Bellows has to prove himself. Like, how is he going to do that if he can't get in the lineup? If Wahlstrom continues to play like this, so um, other than
It'll be
that,
tricky.
like it'll be tricky for sure. But other than that, Ilya Sorokin looks phenomenal, phenomenal. Like big things for that kid this year.
Yeah, I think that that battle with Shesterkin for the top goalie spot in the league, certainly in New York, um,
Yeah,
is super cool for them kind of both to be at the top of their game and really making an impact on both their teams. I thought Sorokin looked great. He was in front of the puck. He was square to it. Um, Looked very cool, calm, collected. To use a cliche, definitely like what I saw from him as well. And to talk about Sashnikov and Bellows, who got the nod against Florida, Clutterbuck, Wahlstrom in the lineup for Game 2 against the Ducks, and Sebastian Aho went to the injured reserve, and that kind of puts the team and Lou Lamoriello um, in an interesting position where they're going to have to go through some cap gymnastics one way or another because they have
yeah.
Clutterbuck and Aho are a wash, and it's not about a cap problem. It's more of a roster gymnastics problem, just because they have an extra player around the team than they have roster spots. So they're at 23 with Aho on the injured reserve. So it'll be interesting because Wahlstrom is the only player, well, and Robin Salo, that are waivers exempt, just simply by games played. So they might just be playing a game for a little bit, which kind of stinks because it means, Aho is not available for a week, and whoever is on the IR is unavailable for a week. Um, so if Aho's out, they really are only carrying 6 defensemen. They can call up people on an emergency basis. I don't really know exactly what those rules are, but it makes things a little complicated.
Yeah.
Um, if Clutterbuck was going to be out for some significant time, which it doesn't seem like it was going to be, that eased it a lot. That gets Sashnikov in those games. Are they worried about losing Sashnikov? They're not going to send Aho down. Like when he comes back, that to clear that roster spot. So I'm interested to see what that means for the roster. What do you make of all this?
It's it's funny because like I was talking to somebody in the box the other night, and I'm saying to myself, I'm like, how are the Islanders dressing Clutterbuck tonight? No, he hasn't come off injured reserve. I'm sorry, no, he came off injured reserve, but nobody's gone on injured reserve and nobody was waived because like I think at that point it was like 2 o'clock, and I was like, nobody was waived. Clutterbuck is dressing tonight. How are they doing this? This is quote unquote illegal, right? Like this can't happen. And sure enough, game time comes. Is oh, by the way, Sebastian Aho to injured reserve. What does it mean to me? What does it mean for the Islanders? I don't know. Not. I don't think much. I think it means Lou Lamoriello is doing Lou Lamoriello shit behind the curtain, and that's just the way it's going to be. Yeah, no. Sebastian Aho stubbed his toe the other day. It's broken. Can't put a skate on. So he's on the injured reserve retro as of the 8th. Yeah, no, that happened. That's a thing that happened.
It
That's
definitely it's def I like I said, I don't know how long they can do it, and that's what I'm saying, like, I think in the short term, he fixed it, right? Aho IR, whatever. If Mayfield stubs his toe, but, like, for real,
right.
or whatever, like, something just happens, someone just gets a stomach bug and they're out for a game. I don't know how that works for emergency call-ups and things like that, um, but, like, all of a sudden, the defense just has their 6, and luckily, they're playing really well, like, that's not gonna be the reason, unless Salo just, like, absolutely blows it or something like that, or another player absolutely blows it and Lambert blows the gasket. Um, but it'll be interesting to see what happens. Like you said with Bellows, like he can only prove himself if he's in games. Um,
Right.
so do they just waive him? They like Sashnikov and just because he can play on the third or fourth line. I guess Bellows can too. Um, I
And
guess
that's the thing. Like I said to you, a little while back about Ross Johnson, bit of a different situation because he has the term, but and that's where I think, and the more we speak it into existence, when you question Bellows, like, why did you get 1.2? Was Lamoriello thinking about protecting himself against the waivers, giving himself a bloated cap hit to be like, you're not going to claim this guy, an unproven. Yet yeah, I get it. 24-year-old, but he's unproven. He hasn't done anything in this league. You're going to claim him for 1.2. Good luck with that. Like is that the message to the
for
31 other teams? Like,
for 1 year, maybe. I mean, looking at a team like Buffalo or the
I hear you.
Coyotes,
I'm just wondering,
it
thinking out
it could
loud.
have it could have been. It could have been. I mean, in that case, Johnson is a better candidate, right? Because at least Bellows is a little bit more, and you have a Sashnikov for that fourth line. If Johnson like is just very seriously not going to get a game, I don't understand why he's not just waived automatically in the beginning of the season. Like, get him out of here. I'm not saying that because I don't like him as a player. I just
No, I
you
hear you.
picked up Sashnikov and he's clearly somebody that can take Clutterbuck's spot. Why is he around? I just don't. I don't think the team wants to lose him. I don't think I want to lose him because Sashnikov, Zizekas, Johnson could be the future fourth line of this team if both of those players are around the team long enough. So I certainly wouldn't want to see Johnson leave the team, but I don't know. Would you rather lose Bellows or Johnson or Sashnikov or Johnson, or that's pretty much what the options are. Like they're not going to waive
It's
Wahlstrom and they're not going to lose him because he's exempt, but
right.
it'd be really weird. It'd be really weird to waive Wahlstrom. I don't see that
Yeah.
happening. I don't see it with Bellows either or Sashnikov, frankly, because of just his bottom six Swiss Army knife abilities. So like I don't
Yeah.
really
No,
know. I don't really know what the options are other than waiving Johnson at this point, frankly.
I think that Lamorello is just trying to bank on getting lucky, and the timing of all of these paper gymnastics he's playing is just going to work out. I don't know if he has that kind of luck or if he just has that kind of pull with the league that he could just do this kind of thing. But that's just the way I see things shaking out. Can I just sidetrack us for a second? I'm so mad at myself because I've been betting more on NHL games. I've been doing pretty well. And
Through DraftKings.
yes, through DraftKings,
Use
I've
that
been doing pretty
use that
well.
promo code THPN.
Absolutely. Saw a statistic this morning that the Coyotes are visiting the Maple Leafs, and there's something ridiculous in their last two seasons, like nine, 9-4-2 in or 9-2-4 in Toronto. And I'm like, do I put a big bet on the Coyotes? Nah, this will be the night that Austin Matthews scores 4 goals and then the Maple Leafs will win. Well, sure enough, there's 5 minutes left, and the Coyotes are winning 2-1, and apparently Arizona's controlling all of that play. So, kicking myself for not taking that bet. Use that promo code THPN at DraftKings when you sign up for a little bit of a boost in your DraftKings wallet.
Oh, did the
But
Leafs just score?
I'm kicking myself. Did they just score? Because that would be great. It would make me feel a ton better about not taking that bet, but I really, really thought about it for like
Oh, maybe
I thought
maybe
about
we
it for
can.
like thought about it for like 2 hours. Like, oh man, am I gonna do this? And I didn't end up doing it, but thought about it for a while. Nope, still 2-1 Coyotes.
It's still 2-1.
God, if they
Yeah.
win this game, I'm gonna be super upset with myself.
Yeah, I'm
Ugh,
much like fantasy football or anything like that. I'm not a person to bet on anything really. But I don't know. I haven't gotten into it, but I'm curious. I might use that promo code and sign up
dabble.
just to give it a shot. Well, they always have great deals. They're always giving like $10 or $15 or I think 100. Like we've seen some like ridiculous deals with them. So definitely
Yeah,
take
sometimes they
advantage of
like
that.
match you.
Yeah,
Like they'll
they'll match
match your
deposit and
deposits.
yeah, which I'll play with house money. That's totally fine. I know I'll lose mine. So if it gives me
Oh
twice
my
as many
god.
opportunities, but
David Pastrnak is going to score 50 goals this year.
he's incredible. And then he's UFA, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna message you the goal that he just scored because it was something ridiculous. But
All right. Well,
um,
you do that. I'm gonna wrap up the show. It's getting late. I think we've run through everything.
we
Almost
have
literally almost everything. So please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Nasselman Hockey. We'll try to get the Instagram going. It's just like another thing, and it's a lot.
Do you want it? That's the thing. Let us know if you want it.
Yeah, it was like let us know on Instagram, I guess, like DM us or on Twitter, or I don't care. DM me on my personal Twitter. That doesn't bother me. You can find James' work at the fourth period. You can find my work at the Hockey Writers. Make sure you subscribe to Isles Fix, who are back with at least post game next day newsletters, if not every day of the week at this point.
Every morning,
Uh,
Monday through Friday.
every morning, Monday to Friday. You heard it here. Probably not first, because you're also on Isles Twitter, so you probably saw it there too. But just in case, sign up. It's free. Do it. It's a good recap, especially if you miss parts of games or whatever. It's a really good recap. James, bring us home.
Until next time, everyone. Let's go Islanders.